For decades, Asia's political dynasties have been linked to capital cronyism. Here in the Malaysian state of Sarawak, the political and economic scene has been dominated for 30 years by one man, Chief Minister Abdul Mahmud. Critics have long linked his family-owned business with lucrative state projects. I'm Fauzia Ibrahim. In this edition of 101 East, we look at the connections between big business and government as major developments change the face of Sarawak forever. There's no doubt that Chief Minister Abdul Mahmud has brought a degree of economic development to Sarawak in the last 30 years. His family-owned company is involved in the building of roads, bridges, power stations, hospitals, and even the new state assembly behind me. Some of the more controversial projects include the building of dams that has displaced more than 10,000 people. Now there are plans to build at least 12 more dams that would cut through virgin forests and affect the lives of indigenous tribes. Howell Davis reports on how the people of Sarawak lose out when family and business interests intertwine.
We like to live here because our village is very big. We find our food from the jungles. We get our vegetables and pigs there. We don't buy anything.
It will be a startling, abrupt end to a whole way of life. These people are from the Penang tribe in the north of the Malaysian state of Sarawak. Their traditional style longhouse with its communal terrace will soon be submerged, drowned under a lake for a dam built to provide hydroelectricity.
We don't know if we move, where we will go. If we move, we don't know what the government will give us, how they will help us. But whether or not the headman knows more, I don't know. I'm angry. We really don't want to move.
With the longhouse will go hundreds of hectares of land that the villagers use for hunting, farming and gathering materials for household goods. They still don't know exactly where or when they'll be resettled. But they've been told it will be in an area with only small plots for farming, an end to gathering food from the forest so abundant that there's virtually no need for money here. It will be an enormous change.
We are afraid. We are afraid that we will not have land. We do not have money. We do not have identity cards. We have no education. If we move to the towns, we cannot survive. That's what we are afraid of.
Just a few hours' drive away, SUNGAI Asap is a settlement for some of the 10,000 people displaced by another dam, Bakun.
Our lives before were not like they are now. Over there, in the old place, it was up to us how much we want to plant, and we were free to use as much land as we wanted. Here, we get 1 hectare per family. When that is used up, we won't have any more.
It's one face of development, Sarawak style. The other face is that of this man, the state's chief minister, Abdul bin Mahmud. He's been in firm charge of Sarawak since 1981, a position bolstered by the region's high level of autonomy from distant peninsular Malaysia. He's been behind much of the development of the state, but his family's extensive commercial interests in many of the projects he approves raise many questions about possible conflicts of interest. The dam at Murum that will flood the LUAR village is one of a dozen initially planned or under construction by the state electricity company. 50 in total may be built by 2037.
You know, our chief minister has actually have a plan to increase the manufacturing activity in the state, to get investors to come in and invest in what you call high energy utilizing industries.
But there are questions already about the need for dams for more power generation. There are ambitious plans for industrial development in the state, but the jump in electrical power output is huge. The state already has 20% more capacity than it needs. The Bakun Dam will produce more than double the electricity the state currently uses. By 2020, if the planned 12 dams are finished, its estimated capacity will have risen by 600%. For some, the whole concept makes no sense.
Industry or the government do not seem to think about the livelihood of their people, the indigenous people, the DAYAKs, who are occupying that land for generations. Now, if you are to equate economics gain and displace the people of the country and make them poor, it does not make good economic sense to Sarawak.
But some people and companies will definitely gain. One major beneficiary will be CMS. It's a Sarawak conglomerate specialising in infrastructure and building projects. It owns the only two major cement plants in the state. The Bakun Dam is already this factory's biggest market for its products. It's also won state approval to build a $2 billion aluminium smelter to use the soon-to-be abundant electricity. CMS will own 40% of the joint venture, with Anglo-Australian mining giant Rio Tinto its partner. But CMS is no ordinary Sarawak company. From small beginnings in the cement industry, it's built itself up to be the largest company in the state. Typical of its deals is this huge new state parliament building in the capital, Kuching. A CMS joint venture won the contract to construct the building, a contract awarded by the state government. Similar state contracts for a convention centre, roads, dams, power stations, hospitals, airports, bridges and highly lucrative highway repair deals have also come its way, worth hundreds of millions of US dollars. There's no doubt that CMS has helped develop Sarawak, and for some, such as the head of Sarawak Energy and the Chief Minister's own brother-in-law, such close relations between the state and private companies are healthy.
Of course, I mean, it is easier if you have personal contacts with the Chief Minister or, for that matter, anybody in power. And I think the government realized the importance of industry and the need to be in close touch with people who actually drive the industry. So I don't see a problem with that.
A glance at CMS's latest annual report reveals just how very close the connections are between it and the Chief Minister's family. CMS's biggest shareholder is a company called Majahata, with almost 45 million shares in the company, more than 13%. Two of the Chief Minister's sons are on its board. His wife owns another 37 million shares of CMS outright, 11% of the company. The two sons between them own another 53.5 million shares, 16% of the company, while the two daughters together have indirect holdings of almost 90 million shares, or over 27%. As Sarawak's Chief Minister has said, there's nothing illegal about such conflicts of interest in Malaysia. But the extent of CMS's role in the state and the number of contracts it has won from the Chief Minister's government is controversial, to say the least. It's not just large-scale prestige projects that see clear conflicts of interest. Bridges similar to this one are at the centre of one of the most blatant examples. It's a case that involves the Chief Minister's son, huge cost overruns, and hundreds of millions of dollars of state money. Founded in 1998 with less than $1 million US worth of share capital, Titanium Management is now building a major new headquarters outside Kuching. Part of the reason it can afford to is that less than 18 months after it was founded, the then tiny company was given a $150 million state contract. That was meant to pay for the repair or replacement of almost 400 old bridges in the state. A 2006 report on the contract from the Malaysian Federal Auditor General's Office came to some damning conclusions. It said that state rules meant that contracts over $14,000 should have been open to tenders. This one, worth more than $150 million initially, was awarded directly to the company. Titanium Management, it said, was so small it did not have a stable financial model to carry out the contract. All projects were subcontracted to other companies. And to make matters worse, the replacement bridges did not meet actual needs and were not built economically. Some explanation of why such an inadequate company was chosen to fix the state's broken bridges may lie in Titanium Management's registration information. in the Companies Commission of Malaysia. It shows that out of 2.4 million shares in the company when it was founded, 1,430,000 were owned by Mahmoud Abu Bakr Tayyib, son of the Chief Minister. That more isn't made of such apparent conflicts of interest might strike outsiders as unusual. But the Chief Minister keeps a tight rein on the press in the state, while heavy restrictions are placed on outside media organisations, including bans on any filming or interviews about sensitive current issues, which will cause unrest or tarnish the image of Sarawak. Filming stories about logging, the environment and local political issues. And any negative or critical portrayal of the good name of the government. The issue of the Tayyib family's money is so sensitive that even normally talkative analysts Al Jazeera spoke to refused to be interviewed. Such fear is perhaps not surprising. Threatening phone calls to activists fighting commercial interests for the rights of indigenous people are not uncommon. There's no suggestion the Chief Minister's family are in any way involved, but it's clear Sarawak's political atmosphere can be poisonous.
The latest that I had, they said that, you know, in cities, accidents do happen, and, you know, there are bad drivers, there are bad roads, you know. There are heavy traffic and there are careless drivers. So what do you make out of it? I don't know. See, that is a very specific.
So that was an anonymous phone call?
Yeah, that is an anonymous phone call to me, talking about road accidents.
Meanwhile, the Penang villagers, forced to make way for the Bakun Dam, scratch a living on their small holdings. For them, development has meant a new longhouse, but no forest to find food in. The dam will cost at least $2 billion. But the 10,000 people it's displaced say they only received half their promised compensation. And that itself is no recompense for a life gone in a state that seems to favour spending its money on a chosen few.
Those people who are well off, they will get richer. For those of us who live from meal to meal, life is not easy. Among the 20 parent families, none of us have any money left. For those who have money, they will live. For those of us without money, it is very difficult. Life before was much better.
After the break, we'll speak to Sarawak's Land Development Minister, Dr. James Marsing. Stay with us on 101 East.